Nearly blew a hole in my garage door with a Previa front spring. Yeah. Boy, I love winter time. Just got off work. It is 3 p.m. And, well, the sun's already setting. Just, what a lovely season. I mean, I hate it here. So, yesterday, we did the SADs, Guibos on the van, Previa. What a nice ride. Golly, it's comfortable and quiet, convenient. We're driving it right now. It's a good rig. We did, holy cow, there's rocks everywhere. Don't break my windshield. Anyway, we did the SADs. It was a terrible time. Perfect name. Also went ahead and did spark plug wires, distributor cap, spark plugs, rotor button. And, you know, she's running pretty good. So, clearly, we should ruin it. I don't know, it might have to be a 2-part day since we're already running out of daylight and my phone's dead. But I think today we might try to address the suspension. You know, just a nice stock refresh to make it stay comfortable. No, we're just, we're gonna make some coilovers for it. This thing needs to be freaking slammed. I mean, it's basically a sports car. There's no reason it should be this high off the ground. So, we're gonna see what we can make. There are bolt-on aftermarket off-the-shelf coilovers for the Previa. They're not wildly expensive, but we're not going to buy them. So, there. So I guess once we get home, we'll start looking at things, see what we can come up with today. All right, so in the interest of time, we've already got this bad boy up in the air. Got the shocks unbolted, jack stands on the frame. We should be able to go ahead and drop the jack. And yeah, that should droop the axle perfectly. And I'm hoping we're still under a little bit of tension here from the parking brake cables. The goal here is to push the axle down as far as we can, get these stock springs out, and I've got a plan, so we need to see if that plan will work. All right, so we got our springs out. One notable thing, also I've already taken the spare tire carrier out of here, mainly for visibility, but these O2 sensor wires, oh wow, O2 sensor wires, ABS sensor wires, they do not have a lot of slack, so I unbolted those from the chassis, as well as the brake line did not allow for enough droop to pull our leaf. Coil springs out, but we're out. So the next step I want to do is I want to jack the axle back up and see how high it can go, i.e. how low the van will end up going. Before we get to the bump stop. Tiny little bump stop. There's a ton of junk, garbage really, on this axle housing. So I don't know how low it'll be able to go before we have clearance issues. So plan is now, jack the axle up, see if the bump stop is the first thing that hits. Another thing I'm going to do is leave the shocks disconnected because they may bottom out first. So after I find out what bottoms out, then we'll hit the shocks back on, do that again, make sure we can get the same amount of drop. And then we will see if we can't make the springs more shorter. Plan? You know, it's rush hour o'clock out here, so switch to the microphone. Hopefully you guys can actually hear me. Cause, well, these people won't stop driving past my house. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, it seems quite low. Let's throw a wheel on there and see. Some loser put the lug nuts back on so he didn't lose them. Lame. But that is up against the bump stop. It looks like those ABS wires do in fact hit the underbody of the car. Oh! It's really not that low, but these are only 16s. Sure. Okay, so almost tucking tire on a 16. Not nearly as low as I'd like, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I'm sure that's pretty low. See how we look underneath, and then we'll rehook, attach, connect the shocks, and see if they allow it to go this low. Our shocks will not allow us to be this low, which is fine. It looks like basically any pickup truck front shock would work back here if we need to go to a shorter shock. Mind you, they bottom out almost exactly when the axle hits the bump stop. Traffic much? Jeez. Anywho, so I do plan, however, on running 18s on this thing. And I thought about it and I was like, I've got 18s laying around. So there's no possible way width and offset wise this will fit. But it'll give us a better idea diameter wise what an 18 would look like. And it's not low enough at all. Crap, I did not want to have to cut this thing up to be low, but we're gonna. Yeah, that's not low. Huh. I'd been seeing one on 19s that looked really cool. I think this is why. They don't go very low. If I destroyed the quarter panels enough, I could totally fit an 18 by 10.5, plus 15-ish. Oh, have to kill the quarters to do it though. Oh man. So, 18 looks cool, but not nearly low enough. So, I guess the next step is get under there and relocate whatever we need to be able to make this height work, and then figure out some shocks too. I am in fact devastated at the fact that the diff on this thing, well, it's gonna hit the floor as well as all those ABS sensor wires. We get up on the frame rail before we end up tucking these 225/40 18s, which is in fact the tire size I had planned on running, and not tucking tire at all. And that's physically as low as it can go. That's a real buzzkill, because yeah. So we'll see. We might keep trying to address that further once we decide it's just darn not low enough. But I do have these springs and height adjusters. Now, these are stance coilover springs and adjusters for an AE8E6, and I found moments ago that this pigtail matches quite well with the lower link bar trailing arm doodad on the van, just like so. And there is room to run the adjuster above it and up here. However, now that I've seen the shortness that the spring can go, as well as how little we're gonna be limited, how much we're gonna be limited on lowness, I might not even run the adjuster. So I'm gonna drop the springs in there, jack the axle up, see if without the adjusters that height works. Probably not. That's an extremely short spring. Spring rate wise, they should be good for this though. So we'll do that, see if that works. Otherwise, we'll throw the adjusters in there and set a ride height that works, and then we'll decide if it's just not low enough. And then we'll break out the angle grinder. Came out this morning and it's freaking raining. Ugh. Well, we made some pretty good headway yesterday. I would consider this, at the moment, done. We don't have a lot of travel in the rear. A little bit of frame rail clearance, maybe. Definitely the bottom of the floor to the differential. And there is just a very convoluted wire management setup on top of the axle for this. Looks like it's all for the ABS sensor wires, but we'll definitely need to relocate that down so it's not smashed up on the floor. But it looks like this height, while not as low as I want, it looks doable. And we do have a little bit of travel right now. So before we get too committed with filling to make that lower, we probably need to move to the front, see what we can do there. Hopefully the weather breaks a little bit today. Probably not. It's funny because I've been, sure wish it would rain, because I wanted to get some outside of the vehicle drifting video for the last video of this van. And sure enough, it comes the day after I immobilize it. Great. So, I guess the good thing about the front is the first portion is definitely going to be disassembling a bunch of dash components because the front strut towers are in here under the dash. Swell. So, in order to get those out, we'll have to pull apart some of the dash stuff. So I guess we'll start in there, and then we'll move on to see if we can make something coilover-y for the front. So, this interior panel here around the footwell appears to mostly be Phillips heads. I think we got to start here. I don't actually know. This is that kind of weather that just definitely does not motivate you. But here we are, like 8:40 in the morning, in the rain, taking apart a van. Great. Plenty of room under here. Scariest thing ever is at some point somebody had a security system in this van, and well, I don't know anything about it. Got this fun little dash brace here. The hell is that? It's like I don't think we got the tools to take that off. It's like a 12 6-point extreme star. It's like an opposite Torx. Wow, there's a bunch of crap under here. Next. I don't know what it is, but a 12 just took it off, so I guess that's good. In theory, could probably have gotten all that stuff without taking that apart, but I don't think it would have saved us any time to try. There's a little unplugged plastic box up here, presumably for the alarm that was once installed in this thing. This bracket that holds this alarm system kind of seems like it was specifically made for a Previa. It fits this way too well. All right, that is a unrelated part that you shouldn't have to remove when doing your coilover install. Yeah. Okay. Come on. Whew. We got the driver's side, all except for one nut off. Didn't even cuss that much. Wasn't even that bad. So, I suppose we'll move on to the passenger side here. And pretty sure all I gotta do is take out the glove box liner. To do this, I don't know, but I think so. There's a whole bunch more. I guess security system looking wires on this side. That's cool. You get a freaking Previa glove box out. Like that. Few things more terrifying to find in your 90s car than a 90s security system. Hopefully, whomever disabled it at some point, disabled it the right way. Because I surely don't want to find it out myself. Did that once on my E30. Had a amp in the trunk. And one day I tried to hook up that amp. And the horn started honking. I was like, oh, that's funny. And I unplugged the horn. But I could still hear relays clicking. And sure enough, car wouldn't start. That was fun. Oh, that's airbag related, so you can tell by the color. Usually don't want to mess with those, especially with the battery plugged in. What's holding you in? Hopefully it just snaps, because if not, I'm breaking you. Snap-a-rooney. Okay. Yeah, there's like a big, scary amplifier looking thing in here. Definitely not OEM. And if I thought the other side was hard, boy, oh boy, was I wrong, because this side's gonna suck way worse. Crap. Primarily due to the absolute dread of trying to figure out how to get to those through here, I found that if I break a few snaps and pieces of plastic that are extremely complicated, I can actually see all three from above here. So that ought to make it easier to get them loose, because there is quite a lot really of torque put on these things, and getting them loose with a wrench was hard enough. Getting a wrench on them when you can't see them is extremely hard. So this one's still going to be tough. AC vent here, but it should be easier than what I was dealing with. So hopefully this side will be knocked out here in a second. Holy cowbells. Those are quite possibly the tightest upper strut mount bolts I have ever encountered. It's kind of like they melted into the paint, and that like nitride coating was acting like a Loctite, but holy cow, there's no chance without taking this out I would have been able to get the rearmost one. On the passenger side, it took, I mean, an incredible amount of torque to get that broken loose. So yeah, FYI, if you find yourself in here, be prepared and be careful, because I needed a shallow 14 for the angle, but my only shallow is a 12 point. So I had to get my deep on there, because that's a 6 point, and I was going to round that bolt off, and I was going to be in real big trouble. So those are dealt with. Just, you know, 6 nuts. That's all we had to get loose. 6 upper strut hat nuts. You know, normally you pop your hood, you could do that in 2 minutes on most cars. Well, not us. All right, down here on the bottom side, what do we got? I've never worked on one of these before, so of course it's one of the ones with the sway bar linkage that goes from the sway bar up to the strut. You know, it's never been removed, so it's gonna be a huge pain in the behind to remove. Yeah, that's that one. Just like any other strut, should just be these. Blast them out, take it over to the bench, compare it to what we've got in there. All right, well, I went ahead and completely disconnected the ABS sensor, because it seemed like it was going to be too short. It would have been. That would have been bad for it. I don't want to replace those, even though I probably already ruined all the rears. And if you know me at all, you know I just cut the tabs for the brake lines to come out of the strut, so that we didn't have to bleed the brakes later. So I guess I'll go ahead and blast apart the other side. Go ahead and drop these things out, and we're basically done. Here's our Previa unit. It's not that wildly large. I thought it'd be pretty tall, but it's pretty similar to most front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive McPherson truck cars. really large diameter spring, but we've got two measurements we need to look at. We've got our lower mount holes here, the spread there, and our top hat plate. So, what do we have here? This is for an S13 240SX. It was $80. I got just the fronts. So, top hat, well, they are, it turns out, extremely similar. In fact, you can usually make two of the bolt holes line up. It would not be hard to just elongate the holes in the Previa shock towers and just bolt this in. However, the camber plate arrangement would be for caster rather than for camber, so not that great. It would be nice to keep camber plates so that we would be able to adjust the camber easily as in you can't get to these anyway once you're in the vehicle. But I think we're just gonna bypass that completely and we'll just put the Previa top hats on these S13 coilovers. Then we'll have to work on the bolt spacing here to verify that it's going to fit the Previa knuckle. For one, the Previa uses like a M16 bolt through the knuckle. So these will have to be opened up, but we also need to look at spacing. So first we'll blast these camber plates off of the coilovers, and then the much scarier job of getting the top hats off of the factory struts. Welcome back. It's like 2 days later. Yeah, so we got a little unproductive the other day. For one, tried to smash my thumb off, and in the process of doing that, nearly blew a hole in my garage door with a Previa front spring. Yeah, you'd think I would have a spring compressor by now, but nope, still doing it with a ratchet strap. And well, I didn't learn anything because I did the same thing today, just more carefuler. And I didn't lose any digits or damage any property. So, where are we at? So, we got her all fingered out. Let me show you what we did. Okay, so we've got our S13 coilovers in here with our Previa top hats. Cool, cool. We re-drilled our lower mount, both holes to the, I mean, absolutely absurd bolt size that the Previas are. However, not only was the hole diameter different, but this spacing was a little bit different. You need a washer on there, I know you're judging me. Anywho, so what we actually did because of that is we ran a smaller bolt in the top for two reasons. A, didn't want to make my holes any bigger because, well, I blew up a drill doing this. Burned up like 3 Christmas trees. You know, the stepper bits. Anywho, and for two, with the smaller bolt up here, we can push the knuckle in at the top, and it'll do some weird stuff with like steering axis inclination and whatnot. But what it will do is it'll add camber here at the strut and knuckle rather than in the strut, since we didn't run camber plates on this doodad, which should help now that we're going to be freaking slammed and clearing our fenders. So I gotta re-secure my brake lines, my ABS lines, and unfortunately we'll probably either have to eliminate the front sway bar or go back in here and make a mount for the sway bar end links on the coilover. Not a big deal, but at the moment our front sway bar is not hooked up, which is kind of a bummer, but probably not necessary on the coilovers with the lower ride height, but we'll see how it handles. I kind of want it to, you know, it's a sports car, so I'd kind of retain that sporty feel. So we will go ahead and first of all, probably do a little bit of fender work before we carry on too far. Get this liner out. I can probably pop this dent out, and then we'll try to get her on the ground, see what ride height we actually have. Be slammed on these SEs until we get our real fake wheels for this car. Can't wait. Should be sweet. So, still need to clearance in the rear at the top, especially the ABS sensor lines and line routing bracketry and whatnot, and possibly a little bit on the frame rail. and maybe hammer up on the floor for the diff clearance. We ended up with the front shocks off of the Toyota van, that one, the old ones, on the rear of this. They're almost like the perfect length. Pause. Future miles here. I stole these bushings out of the Previa rear shocks to replace the lower bushings on the Toyota van shocks in order to be able to use them on the rear. Carry on. And I did put the ride height adjusters in, and I just ran them up until we had preload on the springs with those shocks, so nothing should be able to fall out. Ride height's pretty good, and there's definitely not room to go down, so if anything, we'll end up adjusting it up more. So yeah, let's do that. Take the fender liner out, and it's literally an ant mound. I have ants on me, as usual. 1, 2, skip a few, 99. It's been 5 days since we last videotaped anything going on with this van. But, all right, we got her on the coilovers. Okay, we know we already did the 8.6 drop coilover rear, divorced coilovers from an 8.6 on the rear. And the Toyota van front shocks on the rear. Both of those things seem to be too soft in hindsight. So probably not the permanent solution there. And then on the fronts, we got our S13 coilovers on the factory Previa top hats. Well, they were $80 used on Marketplace, and guess what? They are freaking blown. Beyond that, the ball joints are completely maxed out. So we have no front suspension until we rectify that situation. So it's not without some hardships, but holy becrazzles. We got these Circuit Performance 18 by 9.5 plus 38 offset sweet looking wheels. I don't know, maybe I'm just on a thing for white wheels lately, but good Lord almighty. We got 225 40 18, actually 200 treadwear semi-slicks on the front because, well, I had them laying around, and some 225 40 18 cheapo things that I also had laying around on the rear. Fitment is fan-freaking-tastic. Yep. However, if you know anything about solid axles and 4-link and 5-link, if you will, because this has a panhard bar, you will notice that the fitment on this side, it's good in the rear. But if you go to this side on the rear, it's more gooder. And that is because, well, our panhard bar has gone from slightly pointed down in the OEM to past the middle to now pointed up, and it is no longer long enough to center the axle at ride height. So we're actually pushing the axle out towards the passenger side. It does hit the back door when you open it. So the only fix for that is to cut and extend our panhard bar, or just let the fitment be wonky from side to side. Haven't decided which I feel like doing. But at the moment, coilovers, sweet wheels, good fitment. And I mean, what more could you want from a jelly bean van that looks freaking sweet? Simultaneously, the white wheels has really brought out some of the mint green to this thing. And so now it's like a mint green and gray two-tone. It's like it really wants to be an S13. Drifts pretty good too. So there it is. We've got a slammed Previa, and well, none of it works.